assessments and legislation, how, like Kate referenced earlier, how to do things better. That's why I'm running. I have a lot of great ideas, a lot of forward-thinking ideas, and how to achieve what you're going to hear promised tonight. Thank you.
From Palm Beach County.
Thank you so very much, and thanks to the club. I really want to start out by acknowledging those people that are really responsible for us being here tonight. So if any of you have ever served the United States Armed Forces, would you please stand for a second? Thank you for your service. I'm a brother in arms. I served 20 years, including Vietnam. And we are here tonight because of you and people like my dad who served 27 years in the Marine. And our military is under attack, and our constitutional freedoms are under attack. And I will fight those battles to the bitter end to make sure that our Constitution and our flag is standing in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Alan Schlesinger is from Palm Beach County.
Good evening, and it's great to be with all of you. First off, I want to thank Carl for his service and everyone else who has served our country so greatly. My aide is a wounded veteran from Desert Storm, Bill Lefko. He's done a great job for me, and I'm proud to have many veterans on my campaign. Just a little bit about myself. You have my bio background. I like to eat Democrats for lunch. This will be my third incumbent Democrat that I'll take out in my career. I served 9 terms as mayor and legislator. I did have a failed attempt for the United States Senate up in Connecticut as our friend, the Republican governor from Rhode Island does. But let me tell you, 2014 is our year. We are going to take back the 18th district, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do it because of the people in this room. And one of them, Bob Langevin, I want to introduce, if you stand up, he's our Martin County coordinator. For those of you who want to join us, please see Bob. He's a great guy, and please join us so that we can take back this district. Martin County is going to be the most important county in this race. Bless all of you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Brian Laura is a bit unusual. It comes to us from Connecticut. Brian, you're not registered to vote yet. Are you here in Florida? Okay, take a minute to explain that one.
Ms. Brian Laura, I never run for public office.
Brian, put that mic up. There you go.
Brian Laura, never run for public office or saw it. I grew up in Florida, Dade County, and I moved up to Connecticut after losing my job in 9/11. Nonetheless.
Can't hear you, Brian. Gotta develop a voice in politics.
Hello? Brian Laura, never sought or ran for public office before, didn't run in political committees. I'm a private citizen who worked for 20 years in the private industry and software developer. Grew up through the ranks, and now I graduated from technology. Why am I running? 2 years ago, we found a country with high unemployment, a poor economy, and a president who's blaming the prior guy. A Congress who is passing bills late at night and without you reading. And I thought for sure the Republican leadership would get us out of this mess. And they chose Romney. He wasn't my favorite candidate. He was a businessman. And I figured that he would change the direction of the country from one where we have more government-controlled economy to greater freedom and greater enterprise. So he lost. And the moment that he lost Florida, I looked at my son and involuntarily I said, I'm sorry. Because the future of this country is going to change. It wouldn't be as bright as it was when I was growing up. And we're not leaving our children the country that they deserve.
Calvin Turnquist comes to us from Tequesta.
Thank you very much. I was just sitting here reaching into my pocket looking for my birth certificate, but I can guarantee you that I can produce it to you. I can't be president. I was born in the Bahamas and I came here as a legal resident, legal student under an F1 visa. I worked, got my green card, and I worked harder to get my U.S. citizenship. And I can stand here today and say that I'm proud to be a U.S. citizen of America, the country that embraced me. The country that embraced me as its adopted son. And it's because of the work that you have done, the path that you have paved that allows me to stand here today to say that I'm a candidate for the United States Congress. Thank you for what you have done to give me the opportunity to run for office. This Friday, the 28th of February, I'll be celebrating my 17th year anniversary to my college sweetheart. We graduated from the University of Miami. Teenage Republicans, University of Miami. Thank you very much. God bless our request.
I just want to say it takes a lot of courage to stand up here. It takes a lot of courage to file to run for an election. So really, I admire every one of them here and thank them very much. Now, on with our questions. Okay, who wants to be a millionaire? No, wrong. Okay, we'll ask you these questions then. All right, starting out of the gate, specifically, what distinguishes you from the other Republican candidates?
First of all, my English distinguished from another people. I can show my birth certificate, but you will not believe this. I was born in St. Petersburg, in Russia. What distinguished me? I don't know what distinguished me from these people. I know exactly what distinguished me from, you know. So, I have my point of view. The Republican Party must attack, and attack. My point of view, the Republican Party supposed to not only criticize, but to give a very serious, down-to-earth alternative. We all want to repeal Obamacare. It's not enough. They must replace Obamacare. And most important, I don't agree with Alan. He wants to get Mr. Murphy for breakfast. Sorry, I have a big stomach. What I would like to give free contraceptive to Democrats to stop their propagation.
Thank you. I mentioned a few minutes ago that I run for office before, and I also mentioned I've been public speaking for years. This is my background music. I have intro music every time I walk into a room. I'm a regular guy. I don't come from money. I don't have the silver spoon in my mouth. My wife and I, to this day, live paycheck to paycheck. We worry about our bills. We want to make sure that our kids, are well kept, and everything's well kept. My son, who's 9 years old, Jack, he was born on state assistance. I've been on unemployment in my life, in my career. I know what it's like to be down, but I know what it's like to use it as not a handout, but a hand up. We've all heard that expression. I've used it for the right reasons. I've used it because I was trying to better myself. I was trying to improve things for my family. This is what led me into really becoming more and more passionate about, government and program assessments and accountability and trying to understand what's going on in Washington and what people are failing to do in Washington. My passion is what led me over the years from speaking at everything from being a Tea Party speaker to speaking at Jewish community centers to talking at rallies in Lakeland to Miami that were led by Democratic senators. But every time I was in front of one of these various groups, I had an opportunity to actually put forth my plan, my accountability plan that forces everybody, both left and right, doesn't matter what party you belong to be accountable with every single penny and dollar we give them as taxpayers. It follows that dollar, something I've been doing longhand for years late into the night. I've developed a plan that forces that to happen because you can't trust them to do it on their own anymore. we got to force in our hand. My plan does that. It frees up a lot of waste and it exposes, by the nature of the plan, every part of the corruption, every pork project, every PAC, every special interest favor that's there. It's common sense 101. It's basic principles, and again, it forces our hand. How does it set me apart? That's what sets me apart. I'm stepping forward with ideas and a plan, not just rhetoric and empty promises.
Well, thank you. I don't exactly know what distinguishes me because I don't know everybody's background, but a few things. I have a little bit more gray hair, for one thing. But I also am a proud father of 14-year-old twins, so I'm still sort of in that game. And I'm probably the only guy in the room or up here that's enrolled as a full-time student in law school. But I think that what you'll find is there's much more similarities between the group of us than there are differences. And I think when we get into the campaign, many of the issues any of us would talk about are the same. But what's going to really distinguish me in the primary and the general election is not what I say I'm going to do, but what I've done. I've created jobs both in the private sector, where I started a company from scratch and had over 50 employees. I built a company in Philadelphia, did the same thing. But I've also started jobs in the public sector. As the state representative, brought Scripps and brought Max Planck and Torrey Pines and many other fine jobs to the state of Florida. Secondly, we're all talking about waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, I'm the only state elected official, and this will be a big thing in St. Lucie County, that fought digital domain. I did my homework. I understood it to be a bankrupt idea, and I argued with Charlie Crist, and we'll document through the campaign, letter after letter to Charlie Crist, that we should not fund digital domain. And finally, we'll all try to talk about cutting taxes. Well, I created a constitutional amendment, what became a constitutional amendment, that 67% of you voted for, called portability. It was not only the largest tax increase in the history of the state of Florida, approved by the citizens of the state of Florida. It allows you to move and not only save taxes, but more importantly, be free to live where you want to live. That's what will distinguish me from Patrick Murphy.
Let me tell you what the new Republican Party should stand for. We should make it succinct and get to the point, because everyone out there, for the most part, except those who like free stuff, can understand this. We stand for honest and efficient government, and that's what my whole career has been about. Honesty and efficiency with the voters. Let me give you a little bit of my background. I did 2 terms as mayor in a 4-to-1 Democratic city. See, the Democrats are still coming after me. I got reelected with 81% of the vote in a 4-to-1 Democratic city. Served 6 terms in the state legislature on the finance committee, overhauling the taxes and making them fairer and more symmetric for the public. The difference that I have with the folks up here is as follows. Let me give you an example. To me, this is deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would have said. When I first ran for the legislature, I ran against one of the most popular Irish politicians in history in the state of Connecticut. His name was P.D. O'Sullivan II. His grandfather was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and the Superior Court senior judge was his father. The island in my district was the O'Sullivan Island. The courthouse in my district was the O'Sullivan Courthouse. I lived on O'Sullivan Road. They said, Alan, remember the commercial from our kid when we were kids? You know, Mikey will try it. Alan, go ahead and try it. Have fun. But what we did is we were honest with the voters. We went straight at them, and we said, "This guy, and does this ring a bell with this Patrick?" We said, "My Patrick, he's a nice guy. He smiles all the time. He says he reaches across the aisle. But what's the difference if the guy smiles? What's the difference if the guy smiles and he still has a knife in your back?" That's what it's all about. We went at the public, explained to them where, just like we're going to hang Obamacare around Patrick Murphy's neck, we did the same with my Patrick back in Connecticut. And what happened? We led the district in the minority parts of the district, in the black sections, and we ended up winning the district 52 to 48. That's what I promise you this year. We're going to have victory in the Thank you.
Well, one thing that's pushing me from the other candidates is that I'm just learning how to use the microphone. I'm running because I felt I need to. Because the Republican Party is not pulling in the base it needs to pull in. We need to expand the base throughout the country to Florida. We lost a state. We lost a state we should have won. We could have a different president. We need to speak to why it makes sense, and why conservatives better than government control. How everything we see around us, from lights to electricity to all everything we have, it's because of capitalism. It's because of individual choice, individual people making decisions. We need to do it in Lenguaje. We need to speak to them in a language that they understand. We're losing the country in many ways. We have our rights being taken away, freedom of speech. You have the IRS coming in and attacking anyone who disagrees with the establishment. We have our education system being taken over by a core curriculum. Who decides what a kid should learn? Us or, Big Brother? And we need to get involved. Individual citizens, every one of us needs to get involved. We need to change the establishment and bring in people who are not politicians, who have not been making their life in politics. We need individual people to stand up and say, yes, this is our country and we can take it back.
What differentiates me from the other candidates? Really? I have a better hairstylist. Well, the thing about me is that I am the only candidate who can articulate on two national issues that impacts us all. Immigration. I know it intricately. I earned my U.S. citizenship by working through the process, legally, not taking anything for granted. Appreciating the freedoms that America gives to you. I can articulate Obamacare. I have worked and lived in the health and fitness industry for 19 years. My wife is a physician. And most of her friends are going without taking insurances because it impacts them negatively. I know this. I am a facilitator. I work on the local issues, work between governments at all levels to accomplish tasks that two individuals might not have come together to do it. For instance, today, I was here today working for Martin County and St. Lucie County. We have an issue here in Martin County, particularly at the airport, where the county commissioners are going to decide on Tuesday whether or not to allow a customs office here. What was I doing all day for 6-7 hours? I was working on that issue. So I work at the local level, putting people together. I work with our county commissioners. I work with our state officials, and I work with our local leaders to bring a solution, practical solutions, to things that impact us every single day. Now you're going to hear us up here today talking about the economy. You can hear us talking about creating jobs. But if you don't know the local issues, and as we know, most politics are local, the local issues, you cannot compete in this race. Thank you.
Okay. Question number 2. What do you perceive Patrick Murphy's vulnerabilities to be?
Dump goose.
It's discrimination. It gave me number 1.
Well, we've heard many folks already reference Patrick Murphy and his connections and his relations and his short leash and so forth with the Democratic Party leadership. I view him as that as well, but I also see him as an opportunist. He's an opportunist who was a Republican 18 months prior to becoming a Democrat, who lost to Alan West in the first election. He tried to run against him in the primary. He saw the opportunity. His dad said, let's do it. right? So he is an opportunist who jumped parties to run in another election against him in this new district. He since has reference coming back to the party. This guy is an opportunist who's going to say and do exactly what we all know, but we all think he thinks what we need to hear, right? He's going to say whatever he wants to say. He's talking about bipartisanship, but what is he actually doing to prove his self? What is he actually doing to do that? It's all talk, right? And let's face it, we're all tired. We're all tired of all the rhetoric and all the empty promises and all the BS, let's just call it what it is, from both sides of the aisle. We're in a position right now when it's all about the establishments, trying to beat out the other establishments, and we the people are paying the bill for this ugly game being played in Washington. And Patrick Murphy is no different from any other establishment or wannabe establishment candidate who's going to go up there and just do whatever the establishment tells them to do, because without a plan in place, without a forward-thinking idea on how you're going to do something, what are you going to do? It's like high school. You can go up there and try to be part of the big clique. You have to have an idea of what you're going to do on day one. And my first idea is the plan I've been talking about is absolute transparency of every dollar we give them. That's a solid plan that's going to force their hand, and no one else can bring a plan like that to the table. No one else in this race can bring a plan like that to the table, and that's what I'm going to do.
Well, I think it's clear to everyone in this room that Patrick Murphy has no core set of values. He is what it takes to be at any time a chameleon. When he was in Fort Lauderdale working for Daddy, earning his $5 million, by the way, that's a pretty good salary. He was a Republican. Last time he was a Democrat. We have his discussions on tape. And then within a few weeks, he suddenly decided and discovered that we have a jobs problem in the state, so he's got a fancy brochure on jobs. You can only go so far about talking about what Murphy is or what Murphy is not. You've got to talk about what you're going to do and why you're going to do it better than Patrick Murphy. You know, I've served 8 years in the state legislature with a majority, and I will tell you the easiest thing to do to be bipartisan is when you're in the minority. There's nothing lost. But when you're in the majority and you're willing to take up on leadership on issues because they're not good for your constituents, that's a story we can tell. Patrick Murphy cannot tell a story about creating jobs in the private sector. I can tell a story about creating hundreds of jobs in the private sector. Patrick Murphy cannot talk about serving with the uniform, and I can talk about a 20-year career in the Navy. Patrick Murphy cannot talk about cutting taxes, and I created one of the largest tax cuts in the history of the state of Florida. So there will be real issues. I don't think Patrick Murphy will be able to understand issues of constitutional fidelity, issues of tax, issues of national security, issues that are important to the people, as well as I can understand and articulate. I'm looking forward to competing against Patrick Murphy, and I'm less worried about what he is and more worried about what I am. Thank you.
I believe the question is how I can differentiate myself from Mr. Murphy. Is that correct, Brother? Obamacare, Obamacare, and Obamacare. Let me give you a little quiz here. I especially like the exchanges. More openness, more transparency, which will help to bring down costs. And most recently, mend it, don't end it. Who said that? Patrick Murphy, you win the prize, absolutely. Well, let me tell you about Obamacare. We're going to hang it around his neck, and we're not going to stop until he says, I give. And we're going to get this district back, because the people of this district, no matter how much he smiles, no matter how much he reaches across the aisle while he sticks a knife in our back, the people of this district, if I am the candidate, are going to have a clear message of what this man has stood for. Now, as some of the folks up here have said, we can't just be antagonistic and we just can't be anti-initiative. That's why I have been very specific in how I will replace these particular items. If you look at my newsletters, some of you have them sitting right here, you can see my position on healthcare is very well thought out. It uses ideas that I've used in the past as mayor, which is health savings account. Let me give you a little example. In my city, my employees had overused healthcare incredibly, as most unions unfortunately do. We implemented, and they screamed and they hemmed and hawed, health savings accounts. And we gave it to them. We didn't make them pay a dime for it. We gave them health savings accounts. Guess how much we saved? Just so they had skin in the game, guess how much we saved in the first year? 25% on health care, because finally they cared about the cost of their health care, because they were going to get savings left to them if they didn't abuse it. This is what we have to do across the board, even with Title 19 and welfare. These are the answers that Murphy would never think about, because it might be controversial, it might... Time's up. Okay, I hope I can continue on this, because this is one of the most critical issues we're going to face this year. We're going to get them on this one. Thank you.
The question is, how are we going to beat Murphy? And the answer is, we're all going to beat Murphy. We can beat him because he supports Obama. He's Nancy's voice, so to speak. When it comes down to it, he's going to work with Obama and with Nancy Pelosi, and everybody knows that. Now, he speaks a great game. He does. Half the stuff he reads is actually more of a Republican platform than the Democratic platform. So, we need to make sure people know that at the end of the day, it's what he sides with. He will always, always side with Obamacare and with Nancy Pelosi. We're going to win this district because if you look at what happened just last week in San Diego, we have a city that was won by Obama by 2/3, and yet 2 weeks ago, a Republican mayor won. Obama's machine is broken. We can win this race, and every one of us work together to make sure that we take this seat. Obamacare, amnesty. We have Americans here without work. 24 million Americans don't have jobs. And what does Patrick Murphy talk about in Congress? That's about a high school who just won a basketball game. This guy does not care about jobs, he doesn't care about Americans, we can tell him that. And we have proof. We have actually proof online that this man is not worried about individual Americans. Welfare needs to be reformed. Unemployment needs to be reformed. I've been unemployed, and my family has been on welfare for a short period of time. I'll tell you that it's important to have a safety net. We need it, but it cannot be something that where we depend on it as your life thing. We're on it for a few months, and that cheese tasted great, by the way. But it's not a way of life. And it's not wrong for a nation to have one person pay for someone else's living. So we need to work from welfare.
You know, I was confused with the question, because I'm trying to differentiate Charlie Crist from Patrick Murphy. Didn't they both do the same thing, Republican versus Democrat? From what I understand, Charlie Crist was one of the most conservative people in the legislature when he served, and now he's a liberal Democrat holding hand in hand with Obama. Go figure. Patrick Murphy's doing the same thing. Now, the thing with me versus Patrick Murphy is that I am loyal to the end. Most of you have seen over the last 4 years when I was coming up here running for District 82, and even though I was unsuccessful, I still came to every REC meeting without fail, showing my loyalty. That will not change. Okay, I will continue to represent this party, I'll continue to represent this district, and I'll continue to represent my people, because you have adopted me. Another thing that differentiates me from Patrick Murphy is that I'm practical. I don't talk about solutions. I bring them and I apply them. I've done it all day today. I've done it all through my career. And as a seated council member for Tequesta and former vice mayor, I was instrumental in negotiating a contract with the largest iron ore company in the Western Hemisphere to bring the corporate office to Tequesta. We don't have a housing problem in Tequesta. Our property values have been going up ever since. They brought 120 engineers to my village because I was instrumental in negotiating to bring their corporate office from Houston to Tequesta. So I have practical application for what I do in my community and in my town. And this is what differentiates me from Patrick Murphy. He talks about the river. I have a practical solution for the river, and I've been negotiating that with our county commissioners and private companies, bringing private and public partnership together to solve a common solution. That's what I do, and that's what differentiates me from Patrick Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sometimes who started last can finish first. I believe the next election will be signs in all election precincts. Once selected merchandise could be returned. And if you don't like your representative, change your representative. I got a lesson from Mr. Obama. So my point, I believe that we Republicans have to go as a seeds in the general population, as a soil, and we have to blossom together in the right direction. That's what doing Mr. Murphy. 3 days ago, I came to the economical summit. I'm sorry. That's my Russian style. An economical summit. And summit named Patrick Murphy is the creator of jobs. I have a sense of humor. So somebody jumped on me, Democrat, and said, oh, I know him, Ilya Katz. Could you tell me what you think about Mr. Murphy's performance? And I say, forgive me my French, sometimes a sword pretend to be important fertilizer. That's what we have with Patrick Murphy. I promised you one thing. Patrick Murphy will suffer if he will start engage with me on debate. He will get diarrhea together with constipation.
Question number 3. Martin County is perceived to be a red county. So you may have a reasonable chance here, but how will you win St. Lucie County?
Well, they've given us 2 minutes for a question that won't take 2 minutes to answer. St. Lucie County, the city of St. Lucie has a $30 million building, a $40 million building that they're bonded for. And they're paying interest on that every day. And there was a single state representative that tried to stop that from happening. And that was myself. And we've got this well documented. This is not going to be a matter of debate. We've got the letters to Charlie Crist. We've got the document to the leadership of the Republican Party that worked with Charlie Crist to put that there. And we've got the facts that suggest they shouldn't have done it because this was a company that had mispromised the citizens of Florida. The citizens, when they passed this thought, or the legislature when they passed it, thought that the company called Digital Domain, which created Titanic and other things, was going to be moved to Florida. But I actually looked at the paperwork, and it was a completely new company who was going to do something different. So we're the only candidate here in terms of a specific local issue that can talk about something. Now, I think we're also going to talk about the river. And we're going to talk about the river in terms of what we did in the state legislature. The state funded CERT completely. The federal government has refused to do so. I led our delegation getting money both for the Loxahatchee River and for the Lake Worth Lagoon. And both of those projects have achieved environmental and aesthetic success. So the battle in St. Lucie County is going to be fought on 2 levels. One is what have you done for people in St. Lucie County and between portability, fine digital domain, and the river. That's going to be where we're going to win. The second level, though, we're going to need your help. We're going to need the help of the citizens of St. Lucie. We cannot afford to have ballots not counted for the Republican candidate, and we will make sure that doesn't happen.
Carl, my accolades for my past performance. However, I don't know if you're going to be able to get that across to the average voter in St. Lucie without their eyes glazing over. I think when it comes down to the estuaries and the river, we need some sound, logical, and affordable solutions, which, again, in my newest newsletter, I talk about the septic problem that's in the estuaries. I think as mayor, in the past, I was able to very economically put in sewer lines in areas such as along these estuaries. And for pennies on the dollar, because you're talking about 17 billion of programs, over 50% of the problem can be solved for pennies on the dollar of doing this. That's one of my proposals I'd like to do. Now, one thing I talked to you about how I took out that incumbent Democrat in the past. I think we can do the same thing in St. Lucie. There are many black areas in St. Lucie County that I believe have hardworking people, not people on welfare, single-family home type folks. We went into those districts when I was running for the state legislature, and believe it or not, most of them had never seen a Republican in their entire lives. And we went into those areas and we said, listen, I care about you, I care about your children, and I believe you're getting the short end of the stick from the Democratic Party and Patrick Murphy. I believe our message will resonate. As Carl did say, we do have to work together to do this, because we have to talk to our neighbors. But I'll tell you, when you go to people who don't expect you there, you'd be surprised at the response you get. You have to target your audience, and you have to come across with a message that will resonate. I've always been able to do this. I've done it 9 times in the past. I promise you we will do it in St. Lucie County with the estuary issue and targeting the economic issues that matter to the folks up in St. Lucie County. And one thing that question begs, which is how important St. Lucie County is, it's going to be the difference whether we win or lose, and also Martin County's plurality. That will be the big question of whether we're going to win or lose this election. I tell you, in 2014, you're going to make the difference, and we're going to win.
Democrats. It's the economy, stupid. Jobs are the number one issue I think we have high unemployment, and in fact, African Americans have the lowest level of participation in the workforce ever recorded. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell them that the Democrats are not helping them, and they're not helping them today, and they're helping them in the future either. In a couple of ways. First of all, we have education. Instead of being with people, with students, with children, Democrats continue to support unions. We need to give free choice in education and let people, parents, choose where best to educate their kids. Second, back to jobs. We have a bill going through Congress that's supported by a lot of the leadership involving amnesty. So, in an environment where people have a hard time working, and especially the lower classes are trying to get jobs, we're going to legalize 14 or something million more workers, and on top of that, we're going to bring in an additional 3 or 4 million foreign workers. It's the wrong time, and Democrats aren't there to help people in the middle class grow and grow with families. So we can and we will win the district, mainly by just showing the people what exactly it is that we can do for them, which is not much.
The question is, how are we going to win St. Lucie County? We don't have to. If you look at the demographics in St. Lucie County, we're going to, the nominee here is going to get a Republican vote. But who do you think can take 20% of the Democratic vote from St. Lucie County? We talk about going into neighborhoods where no Republican has ever ventured before. Kind of like Star Trek, go where no man has gone before. This is what I have done, this is what I'm continuing to do. I can walk into any of those neighborhoods, and believe you me, I stand up like a sore thumb. I do. I was asked one time to be a poll watcher in Riviera. I refused, because I stand out. Going into St. Lucie County and taking 20% of the votes, I can do that because I today was working with local officials in St. Lucie County, building connections between the elected officials and the Caribbean base in St. Lucie County. And if you know anything about Fort Pierce, the majority of that community is from the Caribbean. So, as a Republican, who do you think they're going to look towards when you're looking for a representative to represent issues in St. Lucie County? Patrick Murphy favors me in the general election, and he knows why. Because he knows that I can walk those neighborhoods, I can talk with the people in those neighborhoods, I can articulate our message in a way that they will be able to receive, and they will embrace us as conservatives because of the way I present our message. I have done that for Palm Beach County as the chairman of the Black Caucus out in Belle Glade. It took me 5 weeks to be accepted out there as one of them. I've been working in Fort Pierce and St. Lucie County, and I will continue to do that. And I know out of all the candidates here, I'm the only one who can walk those neighborhoods and embrace that community. This is County. Thank you.
I don't know how to win in St. Lucie County. I just know we have to win country. And personally, I will fight not against Mr. Patrick Murphy. I will fight against optimism. I show people a road to serfdom of socialism, and people will believe me. Even my accent will be big plus. I want to say that we have to go to community, and I'm talking on this topic long time ago. I survived Soviet Union. I was a freedom fighter, prisoner of conscience, and today I refuse to be prisoner of nonsense. I will go to any community. I don't care if you will speak with blacks, with Jews, with homosexuals. I will speak with Mr. Murphy. Or we will speak with Latinos, but I will fight against homo-socialist, opportunist, political clown, and political acrobat, Mr. Trickster, Mr. Patrick Murphy. Keep my cards. I already prepared cartoons and aphorisms about Mr. Patrick Murphy.
All right, let's go right to the chase. I don't mind relays I've already. Right now, it's yes, absolutely. The waterways and lagoon issues are a big thing. It's a big important thing for all of us beyond just St. Lucie County. It's about understanding what's going on between Big Sugar and what's not going on with, say, the cattle farmers and the golf courses and all the other people who are accountable more than just Big Sugar. It's about understanding and explaining things to folks on a level that we all can understand, right? And how we can do things better than what Patrick Murphy is offering and what he's doing right now, because he's put his foot forward, saying, look how great I am and what I'm doing for the lagoon. But you know what? It's not enough. And it's not telling us how long it's going to happen and how long we can keep doing good things for the waterways. It's also about flood insurance and understanding what's going on right now in the House. What's going on with the bigger waters law right now, right? If the House bill passes, how does it affect everything? What about these, they got to the hands of FEMA a few years back, and all these surprise penalties and premiums got hit by all new homeowners, right? It's about understanding what's going on and letting folks know how it impacts them. But one thing no one's talked about is about connecting with the type of folks that are in our entire district and our entire country, but the question's about St. Lucie County, right? I mentioned I was a regular guy, I mentioned I was on unemployment, I mentioned I wasn't a career politician, I haven't held office before, for a reason. Because I can relate and communicate with folks on both sides of the aisle. My plan was designed in front of folks on both sides of the aisle for a reason. It appeals to everybody. I will crush Patrick in the primary, the general, because I will appeal to both sides of the aisle. I will connect with both sides of the aisle. I will give folks something they want, what we all want. There's two quick things I've learned along the way over the years and speaking in front of a lot of different groups. One, when we elect somebody, we want he or she to represent us and our families and our community first. I haven't met one person that says, nah, have them represent special interests first. We all agree with that. We all want to represent us first. Two, when we give them any of our hard-earned tax dollars, we want them to represent it and invest it wisely and responsibly. Thank you.
My turn. Okay, question number 4. Again, while Martin County is perceived to be a red county, more and more voters are registering as independents, and it's becoming very apparent here in Martin County as well. So, specifically, how would you appeal to independents?
Well, let's face it, voters are voters. We're all people, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. You know, as I told you, I got elected in a 4-to-1 Democratic city. I could have held my Republican convention in a phone booth. So, you know, it's not the kind of thing that you go about and you just expect Republicans to vote for you. So, the Independents and Democrats have to have a message that will resonate with them. You know, right now, when you look at the lagoon, you look at the estuaries, it's appalling. I was so saddened when I went out on July 4th and I saw the condition of the waterways, and I just couldn't believe how badly they have gotten. And I think that the average person in Martin County is appalled at their own government. They see the Army Corps of Engineers not caring about them. They see a congressman who has great photo ops, but then he doesn't deliver. It's all about delivering. It's not about talking the talk, ladies and gentlemen. It's about walking the walk. And I have to tell you that my history has been, you know, I might not be the nicest guy, I might not be the friendliest guy in the world. I deliver for my people. That's what I've always done, and that's what I always will do. And I want the people of Martin County to understand that if I'm their congressman, they can go to sleep at night knowing I'm working 24/7 to make sure that they're going to have the best damn congressman they ever had. And I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, that's the type of representative I'm going to give them. Thank you.
So how are we going to afford independence? Okay, so these people decided that they don't like Republicans and don't like Democrats. And that's probably a big chunk of the country. And to my impression is most of them actually would like to choose a party that actually speaks for them, speaks for the actual people, instead of worrying about lobbyists on one side or the other. We need to be able to get to very core things. Everyone wants a better economy. And everyone wants to be able to be safe and protect their family. But we also need to stay away from issues without giving up our voting principles. We need to be able to stay away from issues that right now, because of the environment, because of the way that the media has been portraying us, has pushed away many people and making them fearful of even being registered as Republicans. Independents want cooperation in government, and they want cooperation in a way that is good for the country, not one that sides with one set of lobbyists or others. So we're going to need to speak to them to things that everyone agrees with: better economy, more jobs, keep it here in America, energy independence. And we need to do that without getting into issues that are just going to feed the media and push us to lose states in the next election and also in the future.
Thank you. The question is, how are we going to gain independence? First. And for me, that's what I've been doing. And this is one of the reasons why I believe that elected officials should start at the local level, where municipal elections are nonpartisan. I served in my village in Cuesta for 3 terms, once as the vice mayor. And although we knew which each other's party affiliation was, we worked together to bring practical solutions to solve the issues of our local economy and our cities. So when it comes to doing that, and I know Alan served in Connecticut, and I think that's nonpartisan also, but you need to have a nonpartisan issue conglomeration when you're trying to solve problems. And I have that background, I have that history, because my mayor in Tequesta, independent. My vice mayor, independent. But I know where they stand on the issues, and I've worked with them. My mayor today charged me, or yesterday charged me with a task, and this is what I talk about as a facilitator. She charged me the task of putting together a Treasure Coast mayoral forum to deal with the issue of the railway that's coming to our area. So that's my job for her, and she's an independent. She asked me as a conservative to do this for her because she knows how I impact my community, how I reach out to people, how I serve my community, and this is what she asked me to do. So my job this month, for March, is to bring together the mayors of St. Lucie County, Martin County, and Palm Beach County into one place, whether they're independents, Democrats, or conservatives, to come together to solve a solution that's going to impact all of us, is that railway coming up straight through our cities. Thank you.
Sorry, I have no experience, maybe it's made in China. Conservative, and the second, Republican. For me, country first. I fought for my liberty, and I understand the essence of United States of America. It is not democracy, it is liberty, it is a freedom. If we will lose liberty, including independence, America will be finished.
I'm coming back.
You know, Abamis promised us pie from the sky, but people did not notice that's pie on the dish. And the result, we will miss the pie and keep the leash. This is the politics of President Obama. Who is a Murphy? We have to fight on the big issue, and we will hit Murphy also. My point of view, if Democrats proclaim lean forward, I see forward, socialist ditch. My slogan, lean backward to tradition of our forefathers, to our values of Judeo-Christian faith and our constitution. Why we call them Democrats? Because they don't give a damn about wish of majority. Why we call them liberal? Because they don't care about liberty of individual. I call them leftists, left-brainers, and we have to fight them.
Well, I consider myself an American first. That's what I consider myself. And reference to the question of independence, independent voters out there, we have to ask ourselves why. Why do we see a growing number? Again, I'm an assessor by nature. My first thought is, well, why? Why are we seeing that? Well, I have a lot of folks on my team that were Obama voters in the past. They were now that they became independents, and now they're all becoming Republicans, so they can vote for me in the primary because they love what I stand for. And what I stand for is something that everyone wants. Someone to stand up, put away the rhetoric and empty promises, and hold everybody on both sides of the aisle accountable. That's what independents want, that's what Americans want, that's what we need. Because guess what? No one's holding them accountable. No one's following the earmark spending. Who here has followed one earmark spending in their life? Who's here followed the program to see how effective they are? I can't wait to see your report. I'd love to see it because programs, the spending, no one in Washington's even talking about it. Program assessments aren't being discussed by anybody. Even the most prominent names and conservative voices in Washington right now in front of the screens, they're not talking about the $806 billion that my report broke down of programs that assess 35% to 0%. $806 billion of programs that if you follow that money, you see the PACs, the special interest, you see all the ties, right? That's the policeman in me, the detective. Why are they doing this? Well, guess what? It's very simple to see when you take the time to do it. I've taken that time, and I'm ready to stand up and hold everybody, all the dirtbags on both sides of the aisle accountable. And yes, they're dirtbags, because guess what? They don't represent us. They represent special interests. They represent the PACs that got them into office. They represented all those unions and big donors and so forth that a lot of candidates reach their hands out for, and they get bought by these special interest groups. They go to Washington, they pass these BS earmarks that no one ever really follows and holds them accountable to. I will do that. I will hold everybody accountable and make sure everyone in America knows why and who and what's going on with every dollar that's spent and why they're doing it and what special interest groups behind it.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent question. I think the first thing I would tell you what I do to win independence is not to turn my back on Republican principles of smaller government, of less taxes, and adherence to constitutional principles. If I have to turn my back on that to win a vote, I'm not going to win that vote. But what are we going to talk about? If you look at this district, it has certain characteristics that are unique. One is, it's a somewhat older than normal district. I can talk to that, but hey, today, yes, today's 70s, today's 50 kind of stuff. But how do you talk to them? You talk to them about the hundreds of billions of dollars being taken away from Medicare, because that's something that's important to them. Medicare Advantage being taken away. Secondly, there's a heavy conglomeration of ex-military in this district. Patrick Murphy voted to cut the benefits, and now we've got a proposal that's going to make our military smaller than it was up to World War II. We're going to talk about those things. But whether it be independents or Republicans or others, we're going to talk more and more about a subject that, believe it or not, has not been mentioned, and I think is the ticking time bomb, and that's the $17 trillion of debt. $17 trillion at a time when interest rates are very low. As interest rates go up, more and more of our national spending will be just to pay for the debt. And that debt that's being put out today is being bought by the Federal Reserve, they've already done tapering, and by the Chinese and Japanese. Now, what happens on that fine day when they don't want to buy the debt unless it's 8 or 9%? What happens on that day is the American currency is no longer the world's best currency.
All right, question number 5, second to the last question. Question number 5, of the strategies that have been put forth on the lagoon, which do you favor and how would you get it implemented?
One last thing to say about independence. They are tired of both authorities and party politics, so they want someone who's independent, not warmer as a political career, and also they don't like all this. As far as the lagoon, what we have here is a situation where you have unintended consequences. You have government stepping in and thinking that they can solve one problem and in fact create one much greater. So nature has created a system over millions of years where the water flows south. And instead of keeping it that way, decided to shift it one way or the other. So the solution to the problem is to try to get back to a more natural environment. To use the Everglades for what they're meant to be, which is a filter system for all this water that's flowing in. You can try to raise the size of the walls and have more water than Khashoggi. That'll work for about this long. Because once the water fills up, it's still going to try to flow again. We need to bring it back to the natural environment, both by grabbing fertilizers before they get to Khashoggi, and also afterward, filling them back in the direction where it's supposed to go through nature, through the Everglades.
Thank you. Now, I've been working on this project for about 4.5, 5 years. It was documented 2 years ago when we were running for the State House. When we were being interviewed by the editorials for the Stewart News, they asked us back then, what is the most important thing concerning Martin County? 3 years ago, I said our waterways and our rivers. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon like Patrick Murphy's doing. I've been on this for years. So what do we do to solve this issue? We bring private and public partnerships together. Because Martin County commissioners and the Port and the Stewart commissioners told me we don't have the money to solve this problem. So what did I do? I contacted 4 water filtration treatment plants, companies, bringing them to the county commissioners to see how we can get them to come down to St. Lucie County and Martin County, build a plant to help treat our waters, put in sewer lines. Because we're all a part of the problem. It's not just one person or one issue. We're all a part of it. And if we can put sewer lines in without assessing our residents, then why not? Another thing we should do is convince Sugar to donate their land so we can flood it and expand the Everglades restoration project. Let nature do its job as intended. Because this problem is a 100-year issue. The Army Corps of Engineers created this problem. They can't solve it. So let's bring private and public partners together to solve an issue that we don't have the money to do. And let the private companies, if they want to make a profit of it, that they will, and they won't come down if they won't. So let's do that. And that's what I've been working on for the last 4 years, to help clean up our rivers and help solve this issue. Because I tell you what, even though the rivers look clean, they're not. My wife has been treating patients with MRSA infection from this river, even when it looks clean. So I know what the issues are for this river. Thank you.
Well, generally, because I have difficulty with my English, I'm asking an additional time. It will be exclusion from the rules, exception. I agree with all my counterparts, and I would like to have my time to yield to the last question. Thank you. It's an hour.
No, I'm sorry. There's going to be a 1-minute closing. So if you want to take your time now, Ilya.
Excuse me, that's to be fair. So I yield myself a little bit time. It's my right. Okay. I consider myself representative of anti-government coalition under name We the People. And I believe, as an immigrant, I'm the first immigrant in history of America, real immigrant, who running for office. I believe I'm the first person, 78 years old, who dedicated his golden years for country. If not me, who else will go and fight for children and grandchildren? If you will send me to Congress, you will send asteroid to Washington. And I promise you one thing. Does not matter what kind of speech I will have. Does not matter what will be topic. Final judgment will be the same. Barack Hussein Obama, because of his crimes against Constitution and American people, must be impeached immediately. And I'm as professor of social study and political study can prove this with facts, period.
Well, let me answer the question. I don't agree with my colleagues, or with my colleagues. I don't agree Big Sugar should be giving up all their land. The Democrats in Tallahassee and Washington have been pushing very hard for that. I don't agree with that Democratic view of how Big Sugar should give their land. What we need to do is learn more about what's going on, as I referenced earlier. And let me hit on that. Big Sugar has actually reduced their phosphate output by 56% over the last 4 years. 56%. They've owned up to their responsibility. They've gotten more involved in helping the waterways. If you actually look behind the curtain here of Big Sugar, you start seeing all these things that they are doing productively for our waterways and lagoons. Again, their hands are dirty still, don't get me wrong. But they're owning up to it. They're cutting the phosphate output. They're actually stepping up to the plate and doing the right thing. Who's not stepping up to the plate is when you actually look at the numbers. I mentioned cattle farmers earlier. Now, there's no mandate on the fertilizer output from cattle farmers, but less than half of the cattle farmers, well, I'm going to take it back. There's no mandate, there's a recommendation by the state of what they should, like the minimums, right? Less than half of the cattle farmers are meeting that minimum. The other half just don't care. They don't care. They're dumping away into the waterways and no one's holding them accountable. The golf courses, there's government lands on the waterways. No one's paying attention or holding everyone accountable. I push this word out there, accountability, all the time. Why don't we just hold everybody accountable? What's so wrong with it? Why do we just look to one section and say, we'll hold you accountable, you're Big Sugar, you got a lot of money, you're an easy target, you're a good looking boy, you're a good looking boy. The rest of you, we're going to ignore. No, I don't stand that way. That's not how I operate. I want to look at the entire picture, understand the entire picture, understand who's doing what, who's not doing what, and then we sit down together and say, okay, you need to step up more, you're doing a great job, and you still do more, but this is where we can get from point A to point B and better our waterways for the long term, not just a popular headline story, let's go after good sugar. That's ridiculous.
Well, as most of you know, a decade or so ago, the state and the federal government adopted the concept Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Program called CERP. It was about a $7 billion project. The state has basically spent its hand on buying land and doing some of the things that are going to be necessary. But we need more state work. Importantly, Hal, if we don't get the cooperation of the federal government, remember, all those discharges from Lake Okeechobee are controlled by the Corps of Engineers. So I joined Senator Negron in an attempt to get dual responsibility for controlling the releases between the engineers and the South Florida Water Management District. Now, I'm not a real fan of the Water Management District. In fact, in my last term, I don't even got a hurt hearing on this. They are appointed by the governor, which is a great thing if you happen to have the right governor. But they can raise your taxes and they make big policy decisions. So I had a constitutional amendment that said anyone that can raise your taxes ought to be elected by the people. They didn't get very far, but I think they'd be much more responsive to the concerns if that were happening. So clearly we need more water storage capability. In the long run we need flowways. That's a difficult thing because it's expensive. Remember, Charlie Crist spent hundreds of millions of dollars in tax dollars on land that is now either being leased back to the sugar companies or lying fallow, not being used. But we've got to have control over those releases from Lake Okeechobee that died, and so we've got to get a handle with the Corps of Engineers, or otherwise all the solutions are going to be very long term.
Nick, I didn't really hear that. Everyone's blaming everything on sugar. I think there's enough blame to go around, and everyone in this room knows that. But what we got to do is concentrate on solutions. And that's what I'm here for. We have to find the most efficient means of doing it. That's why I talked to you about septage and sewer lines. As a mayor, I worked with my sewer authority, and we were able to, again, on pennies on the dollar, have such an impact. If the pros in this area are telling us that over 50% of the pollution is coming from homes along the estuaries, why don't we fix that first? Because it costs so little to do. It's only common sense. Why don't we start electing people in this country that have common sense, have some business sense, and go about things in the most efficient manner? Now, everyone up here can give all of their ideas about what's wrong, etc. You've got to start having problem solvers go to Washington and to Tallahassee. Otherwise, we're in big, big trouble, ladies and gentlemen. You need people, pardon the pun, that are going to get their feet wet and their hands dirty. Thank you very much.
Last question, hang in there. Okay, since you are all optimists and think that you are going to make it to the general, let's assume that. And have you considered what Patrick Murphy's October surprise is going to be and how will you handle it?
Patrick Murphy's surprise in October. How are we going to handle it? Nothing Patrick Murphy does surprises me anymore. Okay? What would surprise me in October is if Patrick Murphy throws this race by going negative, attacking me, because I know that I'm going to be the nominee. And if he attacks me in this race, let's say he will definitely lose. He cannot afford to do that. He can afford to go negative because his entire term has been talking about being bipartisan and working, reaching across the aisle and being this charismatic pretty boy who's going to work with everybody else. So if he goes negative and attacks any of us, I guarantee he will lose. If he does not attack any of us, I guarantee he will lose because I'm the nominee and I'm here to take him back to Fort Lauderdale, wrap in a pretty bow back to his father's waiting arms.
I'm sorry, but I'm a little bit disagree. When I was on the same economical summit, another guy approached me. His name is staff writer for Palm Beach Post, George Bennett. He asked me, I know who are you. Please tell me about Patrick Murphy. I said, okay. I think because Patrick Murphy speaking about limited government, about limited taxes, I think he became Republican. Well, but he's a real chameleon, and he's very strong. I believe drumbeat and telling we can beat him, we can do this, we can do that, it is a wishful thinking. He is a very good organized person, despite his mental capability superior to aquarium fish. So we can beat him, but we have to beat his organization. Therefore, I believe any party have to send all candidates to fight in the sorry for my English, it's to fight with him on the ground. It will not bring us anywhere. If we will take the Republican in the Republican auditorium, we know we will do this. Let's go to independent. Let's go to Democrat. And let's beat Murphy on his field. That's it. Only this way we will win.
I want to first respond to something Alan referenced real quick. I wasn't referencing all the candidates who are going after Big Sugar. In the media and in the public, a lot of people love to blame Big Sugar. That's what I was referencing, not all the candidates. The October surprise. Well, I'm somebody who likes to listen a lot and learn from somebody, and I think I have a good grasp on what his angle is going to be. I've sat at some of his speeches in the back of the row. I was thinking Mr. T and Rocky III, sitting and listening to Rocky Balboa, hidden in the back of the audience. That's what I do. And what I've learned is he talks a lot. He's hinting more and more and more towards something he did, but of course, the bipartisan flavor is there. But how we sat with a lot of other freshmen, congressmen and women, and they broke down the government accountabilities budget report, and they broke down all the money that the GAO has referenced should be cut and why. And his thing is, well, we agree that bipartisan level that over $100 and $120 billion should be cut. My problem with that is the GAO report itself, just by itself, outlines almost $300 billion of pure waste. So that's a big red flag by itself. How do you only agree to 1/3 of it? And they're already telling you why it's waste, right? Well, alone, $200 billion goes to, over a 5-year period, goes to data processing centers. These are quick snippet of things I study. Data processing centers, 10, 20 years ago, we needed big wall computers to store information. The government's paid for thousands of them around the country. Right? Well, today you can store a lot more memory and stuff on one little flash card, right? One little memory card. Well, technology's advanced, but government hasn't. We're still spending actually $220 billion a year on these old school prehistoric data processing centers around the country. And for 4 years, the GAO has said, guess what? It's there, Mr. President, everybody from Congress. Why aren't you touching it? No one's touched it. Someone needs to stand up in front of every camera and every microphone and say, America, the money's there. No one's holding them accountable. I'm going to start doing that, and I'm going to explain to everybody why it needs to be cut and how we can downsize it and how we can save more money.
Well, I love questions like this because, of course, if we knew it was going to be, it would be a surprise. One thing I'm pretty sure is by October, Patrick Murphy and the polls will be so far behind me. And I think other Republicans around the United States will be having the same success. It's very important we take back the U.S. Senate. I think we will. So I think there's 2 possible October surprises. One comes from the White House. I think they will, sometime around October, approve the Keystone Pipeline. The Keystone Pipeline would create about 40,000 jobs. It would ensure our energy independence from nations that are our enemy. And after the report came out last month that there's no environmental consequences, I fail to see how they can not do that. That would have a national impact. Locally, the only thing I can come up with, and I keep searching, is I believe if there's a surprise October for Patrick Murphy, He will either call for Nancy Pelosi to commit that if they win the Congress, she would not run for Speaker, or he will say that he will not vote for a Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. We're going to tie him with Nancy Pelosi. She's very disliked. I think he's got to continue to distance himself. Remember last week, he went all the way down to Miami for a secret meeting, but when she was public at the Forum Club, he was nowhere to be seen.
Well, Carl, you're right. A surprise is a surprise. But I think there's going to be a check with a lot of zeros on it coming to Martin and St. Lucie County for the estuaries from the White House, because that's the only thing that has a shot at saving Murphy after we retire Obamacare and the socialist agenda around his neck. So there is going to be money, but let me tell you something. And if it comes, we're going to try to hit it up right from the start, because we're going to tell the people, in this district, we cannot be bought. That we are the heart and soul of America here, in Martin County, and St. Lucie County, and the upper part of Palm Beach County. And we are not going to be bought by you, Mr. Obama. You're not going to save your young man, Mr. Murphy, so he can say he's a Republican and Democratic clothing, but then he's there for you every time you go. We're not going to go down that road, because it's our responsibility, everyone in this room, to get that message out there. So we're going to get it out right from the front of this district will not be bought, so that if that October surprise does come, the voters will already say, hey, we knew it was coming, and there'll be a big fat no. So that's what our responsibility is, to head that off. But I do think it will be a large check coming up. But you know what? That's a good thing. We'll have the money to maybe do some of the projects that we were talking about.
Use the facilities.
Well, Murphy, I think he knows that he can't win at the top. He knows that. So what is he going to do? Well, I agree with some of the colleagues here. First, he's going to turn away from Nancy Pelosi, at least until December. And he's going to turn away from Obamacare and also from amnesty. But these are things that, try as he might, it will not work. Because the voters won't know. They'll know it before he says it, after he says it, and while he's trying to speak. That is not his platform. He's not a Republican. He's not going to vote with the people. He's going to vote with Pelosi and with Obama, with Obamacare, and we also won't let it go.
Okay.
I'm very happy to be between such distinguished people, and to tell you frankly, maybe it will be a good idea to divide District 18 for everybody a piece of pie, as a pizza. But because it's impossible, so we are ready to fight in friendly fire, and later we will fight with Mr. Murphy. But more important, we need non-stop to fight with Mr. Obama to everything what he proposed now to destroy our nation. This is our duty for our children, and we will do this in the best of our possibility. Thank you very much.
We're talking a lot about accountability, and it's pretty clear that I'm pretty passionate about it. I'm definitely be that fighter up there in Washington on behalf of all of us to make sure everything's done the right way. But I'm also that person that's going to come back with a really forward-thinking plan and idea, a logical plan. It's easy to say they're wrong and they're bad and they're corrupt, but it's not easy to say how they're going to fix it with an original idea. You know, not many hows were talked about tonight. I'm one of the only few people, probably the only person that actually talked about how they're going to do things, right? That's the difference. That's where I'm going to stand apart, and that's how I'm also going to relate to a lot of folks in the general election on both the left and the right. Patrick Murphy was a fresh-faced nobody up against an Alan West who a lot of people who didn't know any better thought he was an establishment guy, right? There's a lot of 55% of people in Martin County, Republicans, only voted for Alan West. 55%. There's a reason for that. I can attract the voters on both sides of the aisle. I can talk their language. I can speak. I can communicate, and I have real forward-thinking ideas that's going to save our country.
Once again, thank you to Martin County, thank the fellow candidates, it's not easy to run, Ellen, who was in for a while. I'm pleased to be in Martin County where the Sheriff, William Snyder, has endorsed me, and there's many others. And I'm so grateful to be in America. America is the greatest country, and our free economic system has created the greatest prosperity for many people in the world. Imagine being in a country where a couple of kids up at Harvard, less than a decade ago, created Facebook, and now, thank God, they're worth 10, 20, I don't know how many millions of dollars, or billions of dollars. I think we should celebrate successful entrepreneurs, not denigrate successful entrepreneurs. And I will tell you this, we have a boom in certain parts of our country because of new oil drilling and natural gas technology. We have this boom not because of, but in spite of Barack Obama. So God bless America and God bless you.
First, I'd like to recognize Ellen Andel. If you please stand. Ellen Andel was a candidate who was running with us. And I want you to know she really raised the quality and the level of debate between the candidates, and we're going to miss you. So thank you so much for being part of it, and thank you, my fellow candidates, because this is such an important election year, and I don't want anyone here in the audience to be disheartened by the results in 2012. 2014 is going to be more analogous to 2010 because the people of the United States have gotten a taste of what a move towards socialism really means. And that even though our wonderful president has moved the employer mandate out past the election, people are getting the flavor of how government, when they take over 17% of the economy, what it feels like. And let's face it, Obamacare had nothing to do with health care. It's redistribution of income. And it's just a move, as everything else is, towards socialism with this thug-type administration that if you're against his type of philosophy, he comes down on you now with the IRS and other organizations. We have to stop it. We have to stick together. And in 2014, we will be victorious. Thank you. And bless all.
I want to thank all of you for coming today and for staying so long to hear me speak. I'm the last candidate to enter the race, but I think we'll be able to reach the end, and we have 180 days for the primaries. Patty Murphy will defeat him, but it's not the end goal. The end goal is to change the direction of the country. We need to reach out to a much broader audience. We need to bring Florida back to the Republican side, and we need to move the country more in the direction of free enterprise and individual liberties. This is the greatest country ever created on earth. I owe my life to this country. My parents, when they had to flee communism, they came here. And from here, from nothing, they went to medical school and were able to free us from poverty to an ability to actually live a good life in the greatest country on earth. We're losing that, and we need to change that for the future.
Thank you for coming out tonight to listen to all of these wonderful candidates speak about their vision for America and the vision for the future. Now, we have great candidates up here, and I would vote for either one of them if I didn't think I was the best one to represent you. So, I believe in America. I believe in America's justice. I believe in America's future. America is that beacon on the hill that drew me to this country 25 years ago. And I believe in the opportunities that it presents for its citizens and everyone that wants to be a part of the system and work towards a common goal. If it wasn't for you, all of you Republicans, all of you Americans who paved this path for me to walk on, stand here today and say I'm a candidate for U.S. Congress, a foreign-born who came here legally, I wouldn't know where I would be. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. So I'm asking you today, those of you who have been the ground troops that carry this Republican torch this far, allow me to take that torch into the 21st century. And then when I am too tired to carry on, allow me to take that torch and pass it to the teenage Republicans. Thank you very much.
Thank you.